In this worksheet called Contact List, we've got different columns here, each of which has a different problem, but they're all somewhat related. If you are familiar with database software, no doubt you've encountered the concept that each column should contain a minimal amount of information. It's not a hard and fast rule, but as we look at the data in column A, recognize that although the names are appropriate for mailing labels and certain kinds of lists, certainly for readability, we cannot sort that list based on last name. And so one suggestion is, let's redo all these names, setting up a separate column for not only first and last name, but also for middle name or middle initial. Another approach says, let's put in the names in reverse order. So for example, in that first entry, what if we re-enter this as Silva, space Stephen? We could certainly do that sort of thing too. Now, in Excel, there are techniques, namely the command data text to columns, that does allow us to split this information into separate columns. But as a general rule, it's easier to put data together than it is to pull it apart. And so in redesigning a list like this, consider the two major options, either in separate columns or in reverse order. Now, column B is generally less of a problem. Usually we don't need to split out address information. But if this data were for a city department and we needed to notify the people on Harrison Street, for example, that there might be some closures, how do we sort this list by the street name? Now, possibly a filter could help us there, but maybe we just have to notify the people within a certain range of numbers on Harrison Street. So here too, at least in some cases, we might want to reconsider the way column B is structured right now and split it into separate columns with street number and then street name. And in column C, and particularly in a larger list here, could we sort our list by state or by zip? No, we can't do that either. So it's the same theme in each of these first three columns. Column D is a different problem. These dates are readable, but we really can't use them in Excel in their current structure. We can't sort by date. We can't track future dates or dates out of the past using dates of this type. They have to be restructured as well too. And column E is probably even worse. Good valuable information there that reads well, and yet we cannot use those dates as we see them to analyze data. And although less of a problem and somewhat isolated from this data, off to the right we see a similar situation where we've got two sets of times in column K, and we really can't work with them numerically as well. They need to be separated into separate columns. So when you're laying out data, think out this idea. Each column should have a minimal amount of information, and we've seen different examples in this worksheet of where when we don't have that situation, we really can't work with the data very efficiently.